And thank you for joining my video. My name is David Losey. In this video, we're going to walk through connecting to the ChatGPT APIs that were just released about a week or two ago. To get started here, I'm using NodeJS version 16.18, I believe, the latest version there, and using VS Code for the example. Highly recommend using a tool like this. Let me get rid of my junk there. There we go. And I already have a Git repo with this, so the link will be in the discussion here. There's also a link in the description for my blog post, which will walk through a lot of this as well, and all the links are there as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. You just need an empty folder. I'm using GitHub, so I have a couple files already in here. But right now, what we want to do right off the bat is install the OpenAI library. So this is the open source library from the OpenAI group. And I'm also going to install .env, which allows us to do work with our environment files. So that was nice and quick. I'm not going to go over the great details as to what all that did. I assume you've worked around NPM long enough. Right off the bat, actually, I want to install one more library, NodeMon. This library will allow us to actively develop a node file without having to type in the node command to run the file every time. So this will watch file for changes and then allow us to rerun it, which is awesome. So we're going to go ahead and create a couple files. We want to create a .env file. And we'll jump into that in just a moment. And then we want to create our index.js file. We'll jump into that in just a moment. We want to head over to the OpenAI website. I recommend going to platform.openai.com. I'm already logged in, but from here you will see a login prompt, create your account, get in there. Once you're in here, you're going to go ahead and click on your name at the top right and go to View API Keys. So this is where you can create a new API key. This is all we need to connect to their APIs. It's super simple. Go ahead and click Create New Secret Key, and it gets generated immediately, and we're going to copy that out. Just hit this green copy button over here. This is a one-time key. As you can see, I cannot see this key now that it's been saved down. I can't do anything with it other than get rid of it. And I will at the end of this video. This will be deleted so you guys can't steal my key. So what I want to do here is put this key into our environment file. OpenAI API key equals that. So this is going to allow me to keep my environment file variable like this separate and unique from my code. So when I push my code up to GitHub, you will not be able to see my OpenAPI key there. You will be able to create your own .env file with my code and put your own API key in there, and everything should work. It looks like gitignore already ignores it, but if it doesn't, you'll see that this is grayed out. Highly recommend putting .env into your gitignore file. As you can see, it already ignores it. Putting it into your gitignore so Git does not take that. You do not want Git to know about your env file here. All right. Next, we want to start with our code. So I'm going to copy and paste in a few blocks of code as we go, and I'll try to explain it here. Again, this is all my blog post. So we're importing the .env configuration. So this allows our code to access the variables that are in this .env file. And then I bring in the OpenAI library, and we're going to create a new OpenAI configuration and send in that API key. You could copy and paste your API key right in here as a plain string. Maybe you want to do that locally, but I prefer to always avoid my OpenAPI key being in my code for any project that I'm doing, so that if I accidentally commit, if I accidentally think, oh yeah, let me share this code, that I know confidently that there's no secrets in there. Next up, we're going to create the OpenAPI object itself, and then we're going to create our message. So my first message to the ChatGPT is write a whimsical poem about Darth Vader. If you haven't noticed in the background of my screen, if you follow me on Twitter, I'm a bit of a Star Wars fan, so a lot of my examples work around that. And then we're going to drop in this function that I cleverly called do it. So I separated this out into its own function because I need this to be an asynchronous function. We can't run await code just in a script. It has to be running inside of an asynchronous function. So when we make the call to the chat API, I await it. And awaiting allows me to then just take the data that comes back from that and do whatever I want with the data. The other option is to chain promises or promise management, .then, .catch, all that. I don't like developing like that. It just makes my code a little harder to read and understand. So I prefer await. It's very clean and it goes down in the order of the page. Again, the only catch is the async. So in this example, we're going to create chat completion. We're going to send it a model. This is the GPT model that is available right now. According to their website, this one is the one that will be kept up to date. There is another one, I forget off the top of my head, I think it's 0301 or something like that. That is a model that has stopped been updating at that timestamp. I'm not entirely sure why you would want to do that. I haven't really read into it, but be aware that that's available, and I'm sure as time moves on, they will make more models like that. And then we have the messages object, which is just up here. I have two console.logs dumped out here. This first one just is the data object, which has all of the data about my request. Then this second one is just the message that's come back from the API itself. And then I have some basic error handling. So let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to hit save. And I'm going to use that NodeMon or NodeDemon, depending on how you read it, library. So all this will do is watch the file for changes and run it every time we hit save on that file. So I'm going to hit enter. And it's going to run. And it's going to run successfully. You also may notice I am in a JavaScript debugger terminal. So this allows me to debug the code as it's running as well. Hey, look, it ran. So I mentioned the two console.logs. That first one, completion.data, is this block here. This is returning back a bunch of details and includes the usage, which we'll get into in a little bit. But how many tokens I requested is in there. And then here's my response. As you can see, the logger really doesn't go into the object, so I had to log the actual message separately. Ta-da! So we can change this message. Write a whimsical poem about Darth Vader. Write 2 sentences explaining Darth Vader's past. No idea what to expect here. I'm going to hit save. And as you can see, all I did was hit save, and the script reran. Darth Vader, also known as Anakin Skywalker, gives it. So boom, there we go. Not bad. But this isn't really having a conversation yet, right? Like all we're doing is sending that first message. Now, how do we have a conversation? How do we make sure that OpenAI keeps the context of what we're talking about? It's actually rather simple. We send it the conversation we're having. So if I go down here and take a look at the response, I'm going to take the second console.log and I'm going to grab that. I'm just going to add that to my messages array. So here, I'm going to clean it up because I don't know why we have /ns. So here we are telling this, we've asked you this and you've told us this already. So now I can continue the conversation, right? And I'm going to steal this as my example. What is a knight? So hopefully, because it mentioned Jedi Knight here, that it should have the context as to what a knight is. So I'm going to hit save. And that is a person who's granted title of honor. Okay, so it was pretty generic. Bad example. Okay. But if I said Jedi Knight. So a little side note, as you'll see, there's a lot of tweaking, right? And there's my example. A Jedi Knight's a highly skilled member, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of tweaking and understanding how AI works. I'm not excellent at it. I'm still learning how the GPT models work and all that stuff. But there's a lot of wordsmithing and stuff that can come out of this. And I think that's where a lot of people are going to kind of see their jobs change as more AI models get into the workplace. We need to know how to use these things and work against them there. So we're going to, let me just throw this response up there. Jedi Order. Okay, so I want to ask comma there. Who are the best Jedi Knights? We started talking about Darth Vader. Now we're down to Jedi Knights. It's thinking. Feels a little slow today. All right, it's giving me a list of subjective question. There's no definitive answer. Yep, that's nice. Yoda, Obi, Luke, Mace, Qui-Gon. I would agree. Those are pretty good. It also throws in Ahsoka, Kit, Blue, Mundi, yep, and others. So very cool. So we've been having a conversation with this. We can continue to append and continue to expand this out a lot more. Before we go any further, I want to point out the message object here that we've been sending along. The message object has this role property and a content property. The role, if you haven't noticed, the role user is us asking it questions. So the role is user. To the ChatGPT model, it's the person speaking to it. And then when it responds with this assistant role. This is the ChatGPT, the assistant, saying, here's your answer. There's one more role that we can add to this, and that is system. So system is supposed to tell the assistant how to act. So you can say, you are a second grader. Right? And I'm going to hit save, and hopefully we will see a different response that might resemble a second grader. Now, the challenge with this is let's let this run. All right. The challenge with this, though, is I've been training the system how to respond, right? So this is now reading all of this, taking this into consideration and learning from how it's responding here. So what I can do is actually take this out and start fresh as a second grader. Darth Vader was used with Jedi. Yep, okay. Now, if I was to change this to a senior in high school, we should see slightly different wording and understanding. Before becoming Darth Vader, he was a Jedi named Anakin. In the second grade, Darth Vader used to be a Jedi named Anakin. So, small nuances there, but you can use this to kind of tell the assistant to be a certain way, to respond in certain ways, things like that. And we can continue the conversation that way. The other really neat thing we can do, and I know this is kind of going beyond the API piece, but who are the best Jedi Knights? List them in numeric order. Hit save there. What this should do is give me that same list we saw before, but in numbered order. Right? Bada bing. So I'm going to just take this example, and right now what I want to do is train this, that when I ask a question with multiple in it, that it doesn't give me everything. It doesn't give me like that initial blurb up here, right? I don't care about that. I just want a list. So I'm going to say, assistant, the way you should have responded to this is as follows. Okay, so now I can ask a similar question, role user, and I can say, who are the best Sith lords? And it should list them. Oh, got a typo somewhere. Yeah, right there. And it should list them in numeric order. Boom. See that? So we're not just having a conversation with it, we just also told it what we wanted out of it. So we said, here's how you respond. And so when we ask for other list type questions, it's just going to dump it out. It's not going to tell me it's subjective and all that nonsense. So pretty cool stuff right there. Before we wrap up, I want to talk about the tokens and API and the cost and stuff like that. So I mentioned the usage piece here. So this usage is the usage for this one request. The prompt is 87 tokens. The response is 40 tokens. So there's the prompt includes all the stuff we sent it. And then the completion is what it just gave us. It's just this blurb here. And then the total tokens is 127. So I used 127 tokens here. In the... usage. In your dashboard, you can go to usage and you can see your current usage. Now this $1.33 is from last month. I was messing around with different models that were a lot more expensive, so you can ignore those. I see the model usage hasn't picked up yet. There's about a 5-minute delay, so we'll give that another minute or two. As that's doing that, I'm going to go to openai.com/pricing, and let's talk about what a token is. So a token is equivalent to about 4 characters or 3/4 of a word, right? Which is kind of weird. I like to look at it as 1,000 tokens is about 750 words. All right, so that's their reference point. So a lot of everything that happens in here is token based, right? So it's telling you here's the tokens it's used because that's what it's going to use to charge you, or throttle, or anything like that. There is a tokenizer tool here that you can actually copy and paste text in. So let me grab this response and see if we get 40. Hopefully we'll be right around 40-ish, 69, but I got all my extra quotes and stuff in here. As you can see, every space is considered a token, so that's fun. 45. Anyway, I don't know where else there might be. Maybe the /n shouldn't be part of it. I don't know, something like that. But basically, this will allow you to throw text in it and say, what's the token size of this? 80. There is a library that allows you to do this in code, and I will look at that sometime soon. But it allows you to basically send it text. It tells you how many tokens. Then we can do some math and around that to say, okay, here's how many I'm sending. Here's how many I should expect back, and we can continue to build cost models around that. The pricing on this is also on this page. We've been using the ChatGPT model, so it's $0.002 per 1,000 tokens. So that 0.002, right? A penny would be this one, right? 0.01. So this is what, 1/5 of a penny for every 1,000 tokens. So it'll take a while to burn through all that using this model. Your free tier gets you $18 a month as of right now. So you got to use a lot of tokens to reach that $18 limit. The other models, and I mentioned this before, I was messing around with other models. I was using DaVinci at 2 cents per 1,000 token and sending it like blog articles. So I was burning through it really fast. And so I wouldn't do that again. OpenAI actually recommends building everything using this model because it gives you a really good response. And then start exploring these other models, right? Like once you kind of build your app and you know what you want, then you can explore these other models to see if they give you better answers or what have you. However, these are not conversational, right? These work differently. These are just one-time prompt. But you can instruct them. You can build on top of that. And I don't know what all this other stuff is. It's all great, important stuff around the models. All right, let's go back to my dashboard and see if that has updated. Yeah, it looks like it's updated. So 10 requests. You'll see here on the chart, it still says usage 0. And I was messing around with this a couple days ago. It's still 0. So we had 10 requests go through, 1,100 tokens. So this is 5-minute chunks of time. So the total of everything I was messing around with from 12:50 or 7:50 a.m. to 7:55 a.m. was 1,100 tokens and then 900 tokens. So I used just about 2,000 tokens, which according to this pricing model, 2,000 tokens would cost me 0.004 cents or $0.004, which is why it does not appear on my chart, which is pretty cool. All right, that wraps up this video. Great job. We've installed OpenAPI libraries. We connected to their model. We were able to go into their dev portal, grab our API key, connect to their model. We were able to have a conversation with ChatGPT, and we were able to instruct it. So we were able to kind of program it or make it learn what we want it to learn. And then we also review tokens and pricing, which is really important, especially when you're playing with something, to know if you're going to hit limits, if you're going to start paying for it or what have you. So hopefully, given the the free cost model that we shouldn't be touching that $18 limit per month. So from here, I personally have a couple of different ideas of of where I want to go with this. My big one right now is to create my own ChatGPT UI. I want to be able to have a conversation with it through my APIs and not through the ChatGPT website. So I will be probably looking to create a very basic UI front end on this with React, moving this to an API or a Lambda function. We need to figure out how do you manage this conversation when you're talking with somebody outside of your script, right? We were managing it manually. What's the best way? How are we going to manage this moving forward so that if I have multiple users talking to it, each user has their own distinct conversations? So I'll be having fun with that. And I do want to host all this in AWS using AWS SAM and probably use AWS Cognito to secure my front end. So if I do host it out there, nobody can just go ahead and spam my server and all that. And finally, I do want to add a price monitor. I want to kind of keep an eye on as I'm using this, like even in my mobile web app or my web app, that I can see how much this is costing me. So I don't have to go to that dashboard and log in every single time myself. So more to come for sure. I think this is a fun API, a fun project. And we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for joining. If you found this useful, you can follow my blog. You can follow me here on YouTube, and we will see you again real soon. Thanks.